Okay, so my last video got some attention, which is interesting to me in the past few months. I think perhaps some comrades have been sharing my videos because I got a few more views. I don't get a lot of views, and I'm not really hoping to get a lot of views because it comes with a price, right? It comes with a price of people coming and commenting things that I don't want to hear. I'm 36 years old, okay? I've heard all the insults. I've seen all of the debate online. It happened to my friends. It happened to my comrades. It happened to me. I'm not really here for it. But if you're interested in learning collaboratively, stick around. And I haven't really done a lot of about me type of videos. I do give some information here and there, and I do share some personal stories about the past in the Soviet Union. So I was born in Kazakhstan. I was raised in Kazakhstan. Well, to be exactly correct, I was born in Kaz SSR, so Kazakh Soviet Socialist Republic. And then it became independent. So I was raised in the 90s in the newly, freshly independent state, and I worked the majority of my life in an international organization, which I may talk about soon because I'm quitting very soon and I will have much more time on my hands. And yeah, I'll just need to make sure I don't get myself in trouble and they don't sue me because I also was a union chairperson at this organization. We've been organizing for the past couple of years, and I also share these experiences. Talking about my political affiliation, I'm a communist, and I've identified myself as a Marxist-Leninist simply because this is the base upon which most of my knowledge resides. I have not read the entirety of Marx, Engels, Lenin, Stalin, etc. I'm reading and studying whatever I can, whenever I can. I'm quite limited in my capabilities of studying certain things, even the things I'm really interested in, because I'm autistic and I have CPTSD. And it is very difficult for me to learn certain things because my mind just wouldn't cooperate with me on many occasions. And I'm not a historian, and I'm not an expert on many issues, so I do like to share some personal stories and anecdotes just to kind of, make this whole white narrative about the Soviet people and people living in these lands. I just want people to see that there are other perspectives that are present and that there is a vast, vast body of evidence that needs to be studied, and it's not an individual's responsibility to study all of the sources and give you an easily digestible answer to all of the questions you ever had about Soviet Union. If you want to study the history of the Soviet Union, I encourage you to do so. Even if you do it with just the imperialist sources, fine. You're probably going to learn something interesting. I personally am very interested in looking into sources like the CIA that published famously their statement on how Stalin was not a dictator, for example, and they've admitted that there was a degree of democratic people's power all throughout that period of history of the USSR, up until Stalin's death. And what happens after, of course, requires further examination. So if you want to fund my own personal research, if you want me to look into more of these documents, Soviet archives, CIA archives, all the books that are out there, because there is a ton of information. If you want me to study this for you, I'm more than willing to do so, but you gotta pay me for it because I've gotta live, right? I've got to work for a living, so you can sponsor me through my Patreon, you can sponsor me through Ko-Fi. If you're interested, I can give you my PayPal and you can pay me directly through PayPal, and I can study the things for you. Otherwise, if you want to argue with me, if I get tired of you or if I see you as a person who's not willing to argue in good faith, I'll just delete your comment, I'll block you, and you will never see me again. But if you want to learn, if you really truly want to learn some manners. Do not speak to me as if I'm not a human being. Acknowledge my humanity. Choose your words carefully. And just overall think about how it would make another person feel. Because I try my best not to be derogatory towards people. I try my best not to commit the ad hominem fallacy and tu quoque fallacy and all of the wonderful fallacies. Occasionally, I do engage in whataboutism. And I think in some occasions it may be justified, especially if you look at the topic at hand. But I am not perfect, and I acknowledge that. I know that I'm ugly in many people's eyes. I know that I'm not an appropriate woman in many people's eyes. I have videos about this. You can scroll, and I've made a ton of these type of homemade videos about all these subjects in the past. You can watch all of them. So yeah, you can save yourself the time, and instead of hurling insults at me, think about why you feel so strongly about certain topics. Because the Soviet Union is gone. It's gone. It's never coming back. There isn't going to be a USSR 2.0. It's just not happening because the material conditions have changed. The people have changed. We have changed so much and not in a good way, I would argue. So yeah, it's going to look different. Every single people's project, every single socialist project that we attempt nowadays or in the nearest future, it's going to look very, very different. And of course, we need to learn from the mistakes of the past, but we still have our internal biases, don't we? We all think that we know better. We all want to be right. So I want you to examine that. I want you to look into this guttural, visceral reaction that you get when you watch me or other people like me, and you're like, no, you're wrong about everything. Soviet Union was a hellhole. Everybody there died multiple times. Everybody was sent in 10 million gulags. Everybody starved. But somehow there's still millions of people left behind who live to tell you the story of something else. Like how and why are you so angry at individuals? If this makes you angry, if me sharing my personal stories about my childhood, me growing up in the post-Soviet republics, my parents, my ancestors' stories, and some of the random bits and pieces I pick up from all of the different comrades who study history of the region, if this offends you, this is a you problem, okay? And you need to examine that. If you don't want to examine that, fine. It's your business. Who am I to tell you what to do with your life? You're free to go. You unsubscribe, please. Don't leave me nasty comments. And off you go, and I wish you good luck. I've always tried to be very clear about how I want to study together with other people, because this is just easier for me personally as an autistic person, because I learn through verbal processing. So a lot of the things I speak about, I process them as I speak. I rehearse them maybe a couple of times, and then I kind of give it to the people on the internet. So you can support me on my journey. You can learn together with me, or you can go and study with someone else who is going to agree with you more. But remember that I'm a person. In order for me to acknowledge your humanity and your viewpoint, you've got to do that to me as well, right? And also subscribe to Red Yurt, the channel that I think I mentioned a couple of times, which is our comrades here in Kazakhstan, many of which I know personally, and they do great content on the history of the USSR and the current issues. They're communists as well, of course. I highly recommend them, and you can learn a lot because the auto translation of the subtitles, it's not bad. The English auto translation is fine. You can still understand it, and you can look at the sources that they provide as well. Many of them will have multiple pages in multiple languages. Even like Wikipedia and its references, they're not half bad. Most of the time, the references are just fine on Wikipedia. So yeah, this is just what I wanted to share today, a little rant about the most recent video of mine. And I will be making more videos about little bits and pieces of Soviet history. So if you're interested, you can stick around. Again, you can support me on Patreon. I will probably be putting more content now on Patreon because I will soon have more time because I will be unemployed. And I hope that you have a great day today, and I'll talk to you sometime later.